Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Joel Addis, COVID-19 Site Coordinator for Derby Public Schools, sharing with you a little bit this evening about building a culture of collaborative engagement. And so really, it's important to think about why we're talking about this right now. And, as we look at the remainder of this school year and then also, into next year and future years, it's really going to be critical, continues to be critical, that we explore collaborative efforts between all stakeholders that can benefit our students. So first we need to talk about collaboration amongst our staff. When staff collaboration is effective, it's going to be a regular routine. It's not something that has to be specially scheduled. It's just part of daily practice. It promotes communication through educators throughout a building or throughout our district. It's going to improve the pedagogical knowledge that our teachers have. It's going to help them improve their ability to teach content. It relies on trust. And so without trusting relationships between teachers and between teachers and administrators, you're not going to have effective collaboration. When you have effective collaboration in a work site, a building, or a district, it's going to develop a shared vision. And ultimately, it's going to allow educators to direct school development. And we do this in our own buildings through our building leadership team process. It's going to ultimately support the school community. When we're looking at implementing this staff collaboration, we want to make sure that we've got structures and routines in place to develop educator interaction. In our own district, this is something that we can easily implement through our late start Monday times, specifically the collaboration ones through vertical and horizontal collaboration times, but also when we come together as a building. When we are collaborating, our focus needs to be on our instructional practices. We also need to focus on developing some standardized expectations across our building, because doing so is going to help us develop normed collaborative practices. Excuse me. Next, we need to look at some different ways we can promote collaboration with our families. And so when we're looking at effective collaboration with our families, we know that engaging with our families has to be a central component of our students' education. And in order to be effective in that way, we need to start from a meaningful, sustainable way of doing this. There are some processes that we can follow to engage our families in meaningful ways. We need to encourage, open avenues of communication between educators and families, ones that are bilateral. They go both ways. We need to provide families with avenues to engage with each other as well. And we do this through our district events. We do this through site council meetings, parent-teacher organizations. But these are things that we can build upon. We need to take time to try and see things from the perspective of family members. I know that in my own history as a special education teacher, when I was able to have a really successful working relationship with parents, we were able to see where each other were coming from and see really that parents truly want what's best for their student. We need to develop ongoing engagement activities. And not saying that the events that we engage in are not important. Things like programs, back to school nights, curriculum focus nights, conferences, they're critical to that engagement. But we need to make it more of an ongoing, constant process. We need to involve families in their students' learning. We need to help families be aware of the curriculum that their students were working on and provide them ways to assist their students in their learning. And then really, the goal is to build family members' capacity as they engage with the school community. And then really, we also need to talk about collaboration with community groups. And, when we're looking at that, we really want to look at those outside agencies that we as schools and districts can engage in, to support our support systems when our students' needs outweigh our available resources. And I think specifically of the partnership that our school district has with the Mental Health Association and the work that goes on in our buildings for that. So there are some strategies that we can follow to intentionally develop some committed, long-lasting partnerships. It's important to have a collaborative team of leaders from both the school and the community entities. We need to assess our students' needs, but by doing so, that will also give us a way to gauge the results of our efforts to make sure that they're meaningful and impactful in a positive way. It's helpful to have a site-based coordinator, someone who can work with both the school and the outside agency in order to maximize the efforts of both parties. We need to make sure that the expectations for each entity, so basically that the roles are clearly defined and the expectations for each of those roles are clearly shared. And then that will also create a system of accountability that's transparent for everyone involved. We need to make sure that all of the resources that are available are utilized in a consistent way to provide excellent care for our students. We need to be intentional when we plan these collaborative partnerships. We need to make sure that there are resources in place to enable them to occur over a long period of time. And then, just like anything in education, it's important to have continuous professional development in place. We want to make sure that as our teachers and the other professionals are working with our students, they have updated strategies and tools to use in order to work with our students. It's important always to review the impact of a partnership just to make sure that it's successful. And then also just to be open and transparent and be willing to share both the successes that we're engaging in, but also the challenges that we're facing. And so when we're looking at collaboration, it's important to consider the outcomes for our district. And really, in terms of educator collaboration, when you've got a team of collaborative educators in a building, it's going to help develop a strong integrated view of student learning. When schools engage with families, those families are going to become empowered. And empowered families are active supporters of education, and they're willing to be partners as we work to educate our students. And then when we're looking at our successful collaborations with our outside entities, we have students who come into our buildings who have gone through things that impact their emotional needs. And at times, students' emotional states can get into the way of their learning and the learning of others. These students benefit from interventions that are made available through these partnerships with community organizations. And once they benefit from those partnerships and learn tools and strategies to help manage themselves, then those barriers that impede their learning are lessened. So really, it's also important to look at the specific need this addresses in our district. And really, as we look at the events of the last year and a half, I can think of no more important thing to examine than our collaborative efforts, both between teachers within our own buildings, staff across our district, our families, and also these community stakeholders that are available to us, our community groups, because we want to explore all the avenues available to us to combat the learning not loss and the social emotional needs of our students during this time. I did use some references for this presentation. They're here, so you can review the articles at your pleasure.